In late 2024, Dropbox walked into a bank, borrowed $2 billion, and immediately spent over half of it buying back its own stock. This move signals a harvest strategy. Instead of funding new products, management is diverting capital to shareholders, admitting their aggressive expansion is over. For a company whose user base once exploded, seeing growth flatten is a major pivot. To understand how they reached this point, we have to go back to December 2009. Founders Drew Houston and Arash Firdausi were in a rental car heading to Apple's headquarters to meet with Steve Jobs. They were there to decline an acquisition offer worth north of $800 million. Jobs smiled and told them they didn't have a standalone product. He viewed their entire company as a file system utility, a feature that belonged inside an operating system like Mac OS or Windows. The $2 billion buyback in 2024 suggests the market is finally testing the limits of that standalone business model. In the early 2000s, the cloud didn't exist for the average person. If you wanted to move a file between computers, you were limited by email attachment caps or physical hardware. On a bus ride from Boston to New York, Drew Houston realized he'd left his flash drive behind. Out of frustration, he started writing the code for a service that would keep files in sync automatically across the internet. After joining Y Combinator, they launched a referral program that offered free storage space to any user who invited a friend. The incentive worked. In just 15 months, their user base grew by 3,900%. The office struggled to keep up. Running out of wall space for growth milestones, they resorted to taping them to the ceiling. But there was a structural risk hidden behind those numbers. Dropbox had built the incredibly elegant user interface, but an interface is much easier to replicate than deep, proprietary backend infrastructure. Between 2011 and 2014, the companies that actually owned the ecosystems, Apple, Google, and Microsoft, launched their own storage solutions. This created an economic imbalance. Google offered a 15-gigabyte free tier, while Dropbox was capped at 2. Since Google and Microsoft generated revenue from ads and software, they could subsidize storage as a loss leader. With no other product, Dropbox couldn't keep up. The pressure led to a series of reactive moves. After a 2012 data breach exposed 68 million accounts, the company tried to keep the news quiet while spending hundreds of millions to acquire side apps like Mailbox and Carousel. The brand took a heavy hit in 2016 when the stolen data finally leaked. High-profile figures like Edward Snowden publicly questioned the company's commitment to privacy, further alienating their core user base. Without a broader ecosystem to lock users in, Dropbox spent a decade trying to buy its way into new markets, launching products that failed to gain traction and further diluting its focus. In 2019, they began squeezing existing users for more revenue. They capped free accounts to 3 devices and raised subscription prices by 20%. This chart shows the result. As the number of new users flattened out, the company had to extract more value from the people who were already there. Compare this to modern B2B giants like Stripe or Databricks. Those companies have technical moats, back-end systems that are so deeply integrated into a client's operations that they are almost impossible to replace. Dropbox, by contrast, remained a utility. It was a convenient service, but it lacked the deep technical complexity that protects a business from being cannibalized by bigger platforms. By 2025, the impact was visible on the balance sheet. Revenue decreased for the first time in the company's history, and they've been forced to cut roughly a third of their workforce since 2022. That $2 billion loan for stock buybacks indicates that the company is moving into a new phase, one focused on managing its existing cash flows rather than chasing the next big breakthrough. Steve Jobs' original assessment highlights a core reality of the software industry. A utility without an ecosystem faces a difficult path toward long-term growth. Did you ever use Dropbox, and what would you have done differently at the helm?